We are back on Beyond the Edit. If you're enjoying Beyond the Edit, hit me up, let me know, give me a little message. I've received a few. It's all been pretty positive, so thanks for that. If you're not, you can go and tell someone else because I don't really care. Today, we are doing something a little bit different. We have an international guest who was not on Titans v Rebels. We are branching out. We are exploring new territory, and that territory belongs in the United States of America, people. It's Nina Twine, a legend of Australian Survivor in her own right. Of course, most of you know her as the daughter of Sandra Twine, the queen of American Survivor. I think that Nina is verging on her own status as a legend of reality TV. She's played Australian Survivor twice. First time, she was brutally robbed, taken out too soon by an injury. The second time, I think she came 5th in one of the greatest seasons of Australian Survivor of all time, Heroes v Villains. And then now, you can go and watch on American TV, she's playing in The Anonymous, and she's doing a fantastic job. It's basically like Survivor and The Circle, maybe combined. It's really good fun. So yeah, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Nina, and I wanted to explore everything about her. We tried to not talk about her mum, and then obviously her mum gate crashes the party, which is a bit of fun. So thanks so much to Nina for sharing her time with me, joining me in from all the way over there in the US of A. Listen, let me know what you think, and we will soon be coming to the end of the first cycle of guests on Beyond the Edit. So if you want more, please let me know and I'll keep doing it. Here we are with Nina Twine. Hello everyone. We're back on Beyond the Edit, and today we're taking things international. Woohoo! We've got Nina Twine with me. How you going, Nina? Where are you? Where in the world are you, mate?
I am all the way on the East Coast of the United States in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yeah, represent. And look, I have a couple of Survivor things in the background. I've got my buffs and a few photos. You've got like
a treasure trove. I was at my mom's house. We were doing some pumpkin stuff, getting ready for the fall. And I was like, hey, I need to go home. I need to talk to Mark. And she's like, oh, my laptop's available. And I'm like, you just want your stuff in the background.
She's forever trying to infiltrate Australian Survivor after you voted her out, Nina.
Look, you got to do what you got to do. I came out there to play, and we had our little agreement, and I followed through.
Oh, mate, this is so. I'm really, really excited to talk to you, Nina, because you've played Australian Survivor twice, and now you've like gone back to the States and you're on TV currently filming on The Anonymous. It's obviously already filmed. So I feel like you're in a special case of person that's you're like a global reality TV star now, mate.
It's the weirdest thing. Yeah. I never expected First of all, I never really expected an opportunity to play on a game show, let alone Survivor. I know it was a big part of my life. It still is, obviously. But a lot of people are like, why don't we see you? Why don't we see you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I want to do it. And then lo and behold, during COVID, I get a call from across the pond on the other side of the hemisphere. And they're like, we want you. And I'm like, holy crap. So to have that first opportunity, not only to play Survivor, to play it with my mom abroad like that, and one of the only 3 Americans to play, and to have the most days of those 3, which is amazing.
Oh, I love that you slipped that in there at the end.
I gotta get my credit. Look, I didn't go out there and lose 10, 20 pounds, maybe not 20. I don't know. Everybody kept talking about kilos, and I think I mapped it out to like 11 or whatever. I lost that for a reason. I'm gonna count every single day.
Absolutely. We're going to get to Survivor, and we're going to get to the fact that you're possibly the most underrated player. So hold on. There was Russell, your mum, and you. The only 3. Wow. Damn. Interesting. Okay. Hey, Nina, what is your name? Is it Nina or Alana?
My name is Alana Yasmin Twine.
Okay.
Ever since I was little, I have an abuela, my great grandmother. So it's bisabuela, but abuela Nina. Yeah. And one day she apparently called me Nina and bestowed the name upon me. And ever since then, I've been Nina. 99% of people know me as Nina, other than, of course, let's say teachers, professors, and in the professional workspace, I'm Alana, of course, because it's, you're signing things. And so, most people know me as Nina, and I'm a Gemini. So as you know, sometimes there's the 2 sides. So I'm like, Nina's the Nina is the fun kind of strategic whatever.
Yeah.
Alana's the professional, like straight and narrow.
Okay, a little Jekyll and Hyde action there. Yeah. Well, shout out to your bisabuela. Is that right, bisabuela? Yeah, that's pretty cool. So she bestowed you out of all. Did she bestow other people in your family names, or was it just you? She just singled you out.
Just me. And it's like, I counted one time, it's about 86 of us she had 13 kids and then they had like 20 something. And then my generation came and there was like 50 something of us. And I was the only one. I don't know why. I know my mom wasn't, as far as I know, her favorite. Like she was up there. She wasn't disliked, but she
was remembered. She was remembered, right? She was like,
oh, so I don't know what I did, if I said something one day when I was a kid, or if I was just helping her do something and she just chose it. I don't know, but I'm grateful. I feel like it suits me so well. I mean, I have family members that forget my name is Alana and they're like, who's Alana? And I'm like, me, like.
Soy yo. Was that in, where did this happen? In Puerto Rico or in the States, or where was that?
In Puerto Rico. So my great grandma has always lived in Puerto Rico. She has visited where most of my family is in Connecticut and Florida, but that is her home. My mom is actually working on that house right now, getting the roof done, getting some electrical work done. She doesn't plan to live there, but it's kind of the hub of the family. You go to Puerto Rico and you stay in grandma's house. That's like the thing that we always do. My uncle was just there. My aunt and my mom were there a month ago. My partner Eric, he actually stopped by as well, got to see it, unfortunately without me because I was doing other things. But yeah, it's our hub. It's where all of our childhood photos are. It's the heart of the family.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, I spent a semester in Mexico. I know it's completely different to Puerto Rico, but I love like the big everyone coming back together kind of vibes. That's cool. Yeah. Are you close? So you must have like a bazillion cousins. Like, are you close with all your extended family?
Not super close. And that's mainly because my mother went into the military, met my dad in the military. And then of course he stayed for 30 years. So we moved around a lot. When we were children, my mom, I'd say 2 to 3 times a year, we actually would see the family. Like we were not completely separated. The thing is though, all of them grew up kind of like in a very like 10-mile radius. So a lot of them treated each other like brother, sister, like their own children for the younger ones. I didn't have that kind of relationship. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm close to them. I wouldn't, some people are like, they're like my brother, like my sister. I didn't have that. But in all honesty, as I've grown up and see some of the dynamics change over time, I think I'm more grateful for that because I have that separation where I have cousins that they're like treating more of my generation as if they're their children. And then they kind of have, back and forth, like, you're not my parent though. Don't forget that. And I'm like, oh, I love all my cousins, like the cousin level. And I feel like that brings us closer because there's no kind of, past there. We come around for the fun stuff. Well, unfortunately, funerals and things like that, but we still have good times after that. That's something I really appreciate about my Puerto Rican culture is that we have funerals and we really talk about the person that we lost, but it's always a party afterwards because they want to be celebrated. That's a really big thing in my family. We celebrate those that we have lost.
Yeah. It's such a bizarre thing, hey, like funerals bringing families back together and you're like really sad, but man, I've missed you and I can't wait to see you. We have a similar thing. You're probably like a breath of fresh air to your extended family because it's like, oh my God, Nina's here. Oh my God.
Sandra. I have a few cousins that they get really like clingy where they'll be like, oh no, Nina, come with me because now they can drive. I'm 27, so a lot of them are younger than me. Me and my sister are one of the older ones, and there's about 40 to 50 in our generation, and they're all younger. So now that they can drive, that they actually have their own vehicles because they live in Connecticut. So a lot of people up there, they use public transportation. I had a cousin the other day when I went to a quinceañera. Yeah. He was driving me everywhere. And I was like, look, I don't got to pay for gas. So I ain't tripping. Come with me. No, come on. And I'm like, I don't want to go get a drink from the gas station. He was like, nah, just ride. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll be there.
Man, I love... there's something about living in a place like the States, which is so cool. It's like so much more densely populated and there's just so much more going on. That's kind of cool, exciting. Hey, I'm thinking about like your huge family. You should totally have a family survivor like game. That would be hilarious. Get all the family together, vote each other off.
There would be fights. Like hopefully not physical, but there would be fights because no matter what you do, they're going to hold it against you for the one. I remember in high school when you snitched that I cheated on this test. That's why you voted me out. And then it's like, oh my goodness, it would be hectic. If I did, there's a handful that I would pick out of the bunch, but all of them.
No. Oh gosh. That's so funny. I want to get back to your family in a second, but I want to say right off the bat, so I go back and I do my homework. I go back and I've watched some of your highlights from both Australian Survivor seasons, and I am watching The Anonymous. I do love it. Your jury villa video on Heroes versus Villains is like brings tear to your eye. They loved you. Like those players absolutely loved you. They stood up, there was applause. And it wasn't just like, like at the end of an opera, like rich people sort of like doing a gentle clap. This is full on heart-throated feeling. So what is it like to be loved by people from a foreign country? Even though we have our similarities, we do have our differences. And what's it like to be so closely associated with a foreign franchise of Survivor, which is such a big part of your family?
It's overwhelming. Like, I am an emotional person, but a lot of times I don't show it because then it's like, why do you feel? And then I don't like to get all too sappy or whatever. But I will say, like, in a weird way, going into that jury villa was like heartbreaking because not only was I getting, I think, the best reception that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm seeing my fellow players and hearing them being like, we wanted you to stay so bad. And then knowing that because of something I said, I kind of ruined that. And I felt like I didn't just let myself down. Honestly, I was thinking about them. And I was like, damn, like I really had a much bigger impact on each and every one of their games and relationships in the game than I thought I did. And it was heartbreaking at first, but then having that first night by myself where, you can't sleep, like you're just thinking about everything. It almost felt amazing at that point because then I was like, oh my God, like these people really liked me. And even if we had a disagreement during the show, like Sean was mad, me and Sean had like a little thing, me and Haley had a little thing, I'm not going to lie, to see how they put that aside and were like, no, we just love you because you've been honest with us from the jump was amazing. And then to be associated with that, like, even though it's been a while, I always say I'm an honorary Aussie. I haven't done a shoey. I've been offered by Matt from what season? He's the wrestler.
Oh yeah, Matt from Champs versus Contenders, whichever one it was. Yeah, he's huge now.
Yeah, he's huge. He actually offered me to do a shoey. I was like, mine or yours? And he was like, yours. And I'm like, well, I'm wearing heels right now, so I can't. Felt bad. I lost the opportunity to do it with a proper Aussie, but there'll be another chance. But to be associated with the franchise abroad, I feel is such an honor, such a privilege, and such a unique thing. I've always told myself, as long as I'm lucky enough to make it, to old age, I always want to look back on my life and be like, I did some dope things. And right now there's only 3 Americans that can say they've done Survivor abroad and actually gone very far. Only one of them, which is me. Sorry, Mom. So it's such an amazing feeling. And the reason I think I feel that way is because it also came during COVID. As you can tell, I talk a lot. I love to engage with people. It's just something that can take my day from being really down and bad to amazing. Even a 30-minute conversation can change my whole day. And so to have COVID happen, being secluded from everyone and everything, to then going abroad and, like you said, connecting with these people across the world, people that I would have never met in my life, is my favorite thing. Chrissy, being from where she's from, her background, and like cuddling with her, and then Josh is a pilot who's part Maori. Like, I've never properly had a relationship with anyone from that culture. David Zaharakis, a pro AFL player. Flick, a pro surfer. Liz, an Olympian, like all these amazing people. Simon, a bodybuilder, after I injured my ankle, he helped me out completely. all these people, it just overwhelms me. It gives me goosebumps, and it sometimes brings me down that I am American.
Look, you're an honorary Australian. That's good. Like, that's good. You get the best of both worlds, and then now you can explore, TV in the States like you are now with the Anonymous. So I don't want to talk too much about the Anonymous, but in general terms, you have gotten to know Australians in a pretty like hostile and intense environment, and then now you're playing with Americans, with people like a culture that you've grown up in. What's obviously there's going to be similarities, but now that you're playing like these games, these strategy games with Americans, like what are you noticing about the differences? But also what are you just talk a little bit about the different styles of the two types of people.
Yeah, so I would say that I felt, having played Australian Survivor, more players than not, because George is always an exception, were a bit more, I guess I could use the word like taboo, a bit more reserved about certain conversations, certain gameplays, until they got to a point where they felt like maybe their hands were tied, that they could be a bit more blunt, a bit more out there. And of course, like experienced player, we came for Heroes versus Villains. A lot of us have done it before, so we're not as reserved, but you still see that with the new players. A lot more reservations. The Americans, straight up out the bat, let's go. And I'm not gonna lie, I was one of them. And that's what I thought Australian Survivor was gonna be. And then I'm like, oh, let me hold myself back a little bit, where this time I don't have to, which I really love. And then similarities, honestly, gameplay, like you're gonna find, like your experience, you can go and be like, oh my God, that guy reminds me of Eden, the way that he's playing. Oh, Ferris, that's Ferris all day. Like you kind of see similar paths with different personalities. And that's almost more fascinating to me, because I'm like, man, this person reminds me of Haley, and I loved Haley. I'm not going to let that blind me, because I might. But something that worked with Haley was this, and that. Let me try it out. And you'll see that sometimes it does work. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's the name of the game. You got to be able to adapt and flip a switch. And if you can't do it, what were those 2 times for if I'm not going to learn anything?
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that you call that the similarities, because often I think that sometimes we focus too much on the differences, but actually, there's heaps of similarities. And I think what you're also talking about there is picking out, like, you highlight Ferris and Eden there, and Haley. It's like, they're good. They're making me feel good. But they're also strategic. So don't forget that they will cut you. So you got to be. It reminds you. I think that's that experience in the game, which is just useful. Hey, I want to know. So you. So the first time you played, obviously, it was like a blood versus water season. But then the second time, you didn't even get voted off your first time. You got tragically removed from the game due to injury. Oh, we'll get to that. But I wonder how you would have fared if you were on an all newbie Australian season, because when you played Heroes versus Villains, right, you did so well. You did so well, but you're also playing with, like, let's be honest, right? Like the returning players have a huge advantage, because you know how it works. You're not afraid to jump in, get stuck in. And as a newbie, I was a newbie, like you're still sort of figuring shit out. Imagine if you came on to an all newbie season like Titans v Rebels. Like I won. So what I was going to say, sorry, is when in Heroes versus Villains, like you almost won, and I kind of felt like if there was just a few more other returnees at the end, you probably would have won. But unfortunately, there was just a block of newbies that kind of maybe weren't as, I don't know, sort of courageous at the end. But yeah, like, have you ever thought about the fact that when you returned, you were playing as a returnee with a mix of returnees and newbies, and how did you handle that?
Yeah, so one of the first things that I was thinking about the second I found out was do not shy away from anything. And I learned that playing with my mom. People constantly had questions about her. And I also watched how people would ask Mark Wales questions, and he was very open. And I would ask him questions, and then I'm like, wow, I really like this guy. And then I'm thinking, if people start asking me about my mom and I'm like, I don't really want to talk about her, then it's like, why are you keeping secrets? You don't have to. So I said, you know what? I go in, I'm going to be open. And instantly I'll say, Matt was one of the first people to ask me questions. And I think we talked for like 30 minutes. And I was like, dude, about this, don't forget that. And this was a lot of just like survival stuff, nothing too game, because right, I don't want to give away too much. And we actually connected very quickly. And seeing that, I was like, okay, great. I'm so glad I kept that in mind. And with returnees, I was like, be open, but be more careful with what you say. Newbies might let certain things fly past because they don't realize exactly what you mean by it, or they don't pick up on you being more vague. Like instead of saying he said, I'm going to say, if to a newbie, I'll say he said this, he said that. But to a returnee, I'll be like, well, them, like I'll an upper hand because I need to be careful what I say. That was something. Don't shy away from anyone, but change your terms depending on who you're talking to.
Mate, it's so funny you say that because I remember the reason why I loved you, the moment I fell in love with you as a game player on Blood versus Water was when you were setting up the Andy vote. And you and Mark, like you sucked it out of Mark and you were like, okay, we're down, we're here to play. And then you were chatting with some other girls at the well and you were like, Mark wants to get Andy out. And I was like, boom, Nina, my girl, she's like just, it was such a good example of that. And that was at the moment when I was like, oh, Nina is a pro and she's dangerous. Oh, you jump in.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. And I only bring this up because I found it very useful in the Anonymous as well, where I tell the truth. Like I'm not lying. I might just omit what I said or how I moved the conversation. And I found it really useful in Heroes versus Villains too, because I think that's why I got such a great reception from the jury. Each and every one of those individuals had at a minimum one story I told them that was true 100%. And I told each and every one of them, when you talk to so-and-so, when you hear this story, make sure they tell you the whole thing. And if they don't, I will. Boom, they all knew. So they made their own decisions. And after that, if they regretted it or whatever, that was their choice. But that was something after the first season. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can just use all of this information and tell the truth, but maybe be a little bit more careful about my part in that truth.
Mate, that's the invisible hand. That's what we tried to do. Far out. Hey, I want to say that you were talking before about Mark Wales and not shying away from answering questions, and I listened to your deep dive, which basically you sort of spoke about that. And mate, I thank you for sharing that, because that was something that I actually actively, because I was nervous about how am I going to handle questions about my career and like my past, and I was like, you know what, just say the truth, and then people just be like, oh well, he's got nothing to hide. So I think it's a really good thing. Let's keep going. North Carolina. I'm sorry, I'm a bit obsessed with play things like this. What is it like in North Carolina? And can you compare it? You've traveled around Australia a bit now. Can you compare it to any parts in Australia for the people in Australia listening?
From all the places that I've been, I would say it's a mixture of Perth, because you kind of have to drive everywhere. Along with a little bit of a specific place that I've been in Melbourne is Black Rock, because that's where Jodie and Jesse stayed. And there was like a lot of suburb areas. And then the city is about an hour away. So that's kind of what we have now. The beauty we do not have, like the beaches, penguins in St. Kilda, like we don't have that. But just the landscape, the kind of outline of the city is a lot of small neighborhoods that are connected over a few mile radius. And then you get into like the downtown area that you need to drive to. Because I felt like Sydney, Michelle and I walked for like 2 hours and it doesn't matter. They're just block after block after block. We don't have that here. It's not really a walkable area, which is something I hate, which I then think about Perth when I visited Liz and got to see Flick and a lot of the Survivor cast. everything was kind of farther away and flat. Like where I live in North Carolina specifically doesn't have any skyscrapers. That's going to be Charlotte and Raleigh, which are about an hour and a half to 2 hours in different directions. So yeah, it's definitely humbling when you come back home after touring around Australia like 5 times. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And the homes are also different, of course, with the climate in the area. I feel like a lot of the layouts were similar, but where I am, you're going to find more of those like kind of cookie cutter, every house is the same as the, down the street. And they're
do you have a US flag at the front?
Not us, but a lot of other people, yes.
Yeah.
You'll see U.S. flags everywhere. You'll see now football starting up, football flags. Like it is, it is very much like you'll see on certain TV shows, like Outer Banks, if you're familiar with that, is about 2 hours from me. Very similar. We have like the fraternities, sororities, cheerleading, all that stuff. The typical kind of American TV show, of course, is a little bit more dramatic, but it's all the same.
Yeah. And is there a big military base in North Carolina, which is kind of why you've sort of settled down there with your family being in the military?
Yep. So we live what now is Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg, is the biggest military base on the East Coast. It's about 10 minutes that way. And that is why we ended up here. My dad got stationed here when I was in the 4th grade. And my mom at that point was like, we need to quit moving these girls around. Like they're making relationships, but every 2 years they're losing them. And that's not really fair in my mom's eyes. My dad was always a part of a military family. So moving for him wasn't a big deal, but my mom was like, no, I have childhood friends that I still remember. We need to stop and get them grounded. And I'm so grateful that they came to that decision and agreed on it, because this is my hometown. I've been here since the 4th grade and I love it. I don't know if it's for me in the future, just with my activity level and the things that I want to get up to. But for now, I'm home.
I love that you brought your dad up, because I've been dying to. We all know your mum, and I love your mum. Like, it's weird to feel like I know even who your mum is. But we've seen your dad on Survivor. He was there with the Johnny Fairplay grandma moment. He was there, and then he did a challenge. But what's your dad like, and what's his take on this whole Survivor thing? Like, is he ever going to play? Did he want to play, or he's also in the military. Like, was he, tell us a little bit about your dad.
Yeah, so you can imagine just a typical military man. We say he's like The Rock, but a little bit shorter. Would he play? Probably not. I think because it's been such a big part of our lives, as you can probably understand, let's say with your parents' occupation, it's kind of their thing. It's not yours. And I also think because of how immersed my mom is, he's like, that's all her, I'm good. Also, being in the military, he has suffered certain injuries that really restrict him from doing anything. So he wouldn't be able to compete to the same capacity or be able to recover like other people, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, from the beginning, he was always supportive. As far as my mom told me, because I was still like 5 years old. But being that he came from that military background, and how many times my mom went and played Survivor, I feel like it didn't bother me when they were gone, because I'm like, oh, they always leave and come back, and then they come back. Cool stuff, like the thing, like when I watch Survivor and people are missing their family and stuff, I totally understand. But for me, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I know I'm going to get back in however long, at the maximum or the minimum. But other than that, personality wise, I would say I'm more like my mom. So just thinking like me, you guys know how my mom is. I would say my dad is pretty much the opposite, very much calm. He'll engage for a little bit. The second he's done, you will literally be like, where did he go? Like, I was at a New Year's Eve party, and I had my partner's father say, hey, where's your dad? And I'm like, he left, I guess. He's done. He'll engage. He'll have a great time. But when his social battery is done, it's just done. And most people kind of respect it, because you just know, 30 years in the military, there's certain things that you just don't deal with hey, how are you doing? How's it? No, let's get to the nitty gritty. Like, I don't have time for this. Let's have a great time, have some fun, and then I'm done. So imagine my mom, just the opposite. I mean, he's very much hands-on. He redid his whole living room. He's putting up shelves and putting like these LED lights. I hear they're doing some kind of electrical welding something. He's very much a tinker. He has on those glasses. Up and down is like magnetism. So, my mom is kind of like out here, freedom, whatever. And he's very much like, what's the plan? Like they go and do yard work and he's like, what's the plan? And my mom's like, yard work. He's like, no. Put the stuff out too. Like he needs kind of precision. And that's why I think they work so well together. They're like two jigsaw puzzles. My mom is the wavy one and he's the more sharp one.
The yin and the yang, mate. That's yin and yang. I love that. I love that your dad, if he was to play Survivor, he'd probably get on, build the shelter, and then be like, I quit.
Honestly, I don't think, if you ask me, would you put him on Survivor? I would say no, because he probably have problems with some people because he doesn't like whining. But I mean, 30 years in the military, there's certain things that you're just like, bro, are you serious? Like you signed up for this, you're going to be hungry and dirty and you're crying day one. And then he won't zip it. He'll let you know.
He'll let you know. There you go. That's pretty cool. Oh, I just wanted to give your dad a shout out because he must have been, obviously being in the military is like a, very respectful and noble thing, and shout out to all those serving in the US. But, like, he's also like, it's not normal that you have TV and the military together for so long, and then he's also been a good sport and gone out there. And so what was it when your dad and your mum were away? Yeah. Like, what was it like for you? You and your sister, you're just like, what? Did you understand what was going on?
I understood. So my mom's mom, my grandma, my abuela, she watched us. I honestly don't remember a lot. I have like little tidbits of like kind of flashes, and most of it was like, mom and dad are going to go somewhere and they're going to be back shortly. And by this time, my dad is, he had been deployed, even though I was only 5. It wasn't weird for them to not be home. But at that time as well, we lived on a military base. So I would go on my not really backyard because it was like a shed in the street, but it was all kids constantly. Like there was no, like here, I might've been a little bit more sad because we do go out, but everybody's more spaced out than they are on a military base where there's a park across the street. So any kid in this neighborhood is going to be in that park.
That's who they are.
So that really helped because I don't have any kind of negative memories that I can hone in on. I just remember seeing my grandma and then nobody else. And then one day my mom coming home looking crazy. Where I was like, whoa, she's like my skin tone. Like, what happened? Where have you been?
Oh, the tan, the Survivor tan is, insane. I enjoyed it. I really liked my Survivor tan. It's totally gone now, but yeah. What did you get to go and have Outback Steakhouse after do you remember?
No, like legit, people sometimes think like joke, whatever. We ate Outback Steakhouse all the time. Like,
I love that.
Blooming onion was a thing. Like I have core memories of us eating Outback Steakhouse. And then there was a time, I think I was in middle school, where the one that used to be near us, because I'm pretty sure it's closed now, my dad went in there. He was like, what is wrong with this steak? Like, this is not like normal. And then we went a second time and then they were like, nah, something's going on. I don't know if they changed management or whatever. It wasn't that good, but legitimately Blooming Onion, we loved it so much. My mom bought like one of those little machines to cut the onion to fry it at home with the Bloomin' Onion sauce and the pumpernickel bread. I still butter on it, like die hard. That's something I think now we all know. Some people will endorse things or say things and they never even use it, never been there. If we could go back in time, I can't even tell you how much money we've probably spent there. Like we were die hard Outback Steakhouse people.
Oh, mate, it came through. And it's a joke that my wife and I have always had. We're like, we're eating Outback Steakhouse tonight.
I love that.
It was so good. Yeah, it clearly was not done for a, like an endorsement. It was from the heart, That's so funny. It's like it's the original Applebee's moment, from the last season of Survivor. Too funny. Oh my goodness. All right. So I went back and did my blood versus water. I forgot how good you. I associate you more with heroes v villains than blood versus water. I think maybe just the season was like more popular in general. Maybe no criticism of blood v water, but there were some great moments. You were talking about how Survivor's been in your family for so long, and you talked about Survivor Thanksgiving and Survivor the baby shower. What are these things? Please explain.
Since I can remember, and I honestly think it might have even been before my mom got on Survivor, but for a fact, since then, any kind of party gathering that my mom is hosting turns into surviving whatever it is. Okay. So surviving the bridal shower for one of my best friends, surviving the baby shower for one of my best friends, surviving Nina's 12th birthday. I don't even know what year it was. It has been a thing. And like, you might not even be able to see, but we have like full size puzzles over there.
Oh, yeah, right.
Whole office, but she has like knickknacks. She has a Survivor binder, with, like games. Like when I tell you, hold on, this is going to be so exposing for her. Why does she have these? Why does she make a game out of them?
It's not a hair roller? Isn't that like a homemade hair roller?
Honestly, it could be. But these are like paper towel or toilet paper rolls and paper towel. Why? Because she's thinking about a game to do.
Wow.
Not joking. Like it's been such a thing. And in all honesty, when I was younger, right? Like let's say 11, 12, like getting into that preteen, I'd be like, oh my God, like can we have a normal party? Now I'm like, thank God. Yeah. And of course, like that kind of what do you call it? Competitive nature naturally comes out, right? So I'm like, oh my God, Mom, like you got me walking down the street to my grandma's house with a bucket of games, like whatever. Then we start playing with the family and you get into it. And I feel like that also kind of helped some of our family members, including myself, bond a little bit more because we're just talking junk. You won Surviving Christmas last year. You better be ready for Surviving Thanksgiving coming. Like it's a genuinely a whole thing. Like there's so much more. Which way does this camera go? I mean, she has shelves. She has a torch.
Oh my God.
Torch, but a torch. There's a closet behind me full of stuff. Right now, if you said, I want to play a Survivor game, she'd be like, hey, what do
you want? What season? I have always been in my family, and I know my family is listening, so hello. Christmas time. I'm like, all right, everyone, what are we playing? Is it cards? Is it a board game? Is it whatever we've just been like, we've been given a game for Christmas. I want to play it. Half of my family will be like, oh no, Mark again, let it go. But I love that you can use the Survivor thing and the games to connect family. Like it is actually fun because you kind of lets your guard down a little bit and let the competitive juices flow, I say. So that's really cool. Oh, well, what's next? Do you have one? Is there a game? What is it now? September? So Halloween, maybe? Is that what you?
We never really do anything for Halloween. Thanksgiving, probably, because I think there are some family members stopping through that haven't been through in a while. And of course, because we haven't seen them in so long, it's like a great way to break the ice, just like you said. And you know a lot about these people where you're like, that's not a family member I'll probably mess with. I love them, like you really do learn a lot. I think Thanksgiving. And I also have another family member, her husband, and her 3 kids. So 5 people moved down this year. And I know that they're definitely going to be with us for Christmas. So I'm pretty sure because her kids are now at the age where I think one is like 10, so they can actually play with us. Maybe not all the games, but most of them.
There'll be like a kids table,
like unscramble these words, or like which Santa hat was the one that we flashed you on the card. Is it pink or is it green? Whatever.
Have you ever had other US Survivor players go and play with you for these parties? No, it's a Nina Twine thing.
Yeah, because we've also never really lived near any survivors. Like if we were in New York or Cali or even Florida, I think we'd probably have more access. But even to us right now, I think like there's only a few people that even live close enough. If we did, it was when I was younger and I don't remember.
Yeah, right.
But I know my mom has played games with them like elsewhere, more at events, or if they're having like a small gathering while she's passing through their state and they're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, my family wants to play this game. Can we play? She'll do it.
Okay, I think I've just invited myself to North Carolina to play. Your T-shirt says Dunder. Like, can you show us your T-shirt?
Dunder Mifflin Paper Company for the
awesome.
office.
That's good. Oh, that's awesome. I love the tie-dye.
Yeah.
Very Rupert of you. Let me keep going here. Oh, yes. This is more of a statement than a question. Blood v. Water, you are in a winning position, man. You are in such a good position. You had, and also you came in, and Blood versus Water seasons are always hard as well, right? I think the dynamic really changes. I think getting rid of your loved one's quite good. Tyson showed that it was like an advantage to not have them out there. And then you were so well positioned. You had lots of connections, and it was your first go. And you've got the reputation and the baggage, but you never have actually played before. So, what do you think when you think back to Blood v. Water? Like, is it hard to think about? Like, or do you have fond memories? Or what? Yeah, can you tell us about?
Not anymore. It was hard to think about initially, and I can kind of just say like I'll try to start from without getting too far in. So I go out there and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, holy crap, they're being a bit more shy. Let's be careful. But then Mark is like, nah, let's talk. And then Jordy sees us and Jordy's like, nah, let's talk. And I'm like, sick, two big dudes, I'm in. And then I meet Josh like 4 days in because he's very quiet. And I'm like, this is my dude, like number one, let's go. And then me and Shay connect because Brianna's gone. So I'm like, oh my God, like I
got options.
Jackpot with these amazing players. And I can say, here's the baggage, right? My mom. We then end up on the same tribe, and I tell her I made some really strong connections with these people. Do not screw it up. She doesn't. And I also told them, hey, if y'all end up having to get rid of my mom, I totally understand. Just know I will not be mad at you. Of course, they make that plan. No one told me, but Josh, because I had that relationship with him, he gave me a heads up. It was very quick, very like, and I was like, oh. So I was like, okay, great. Now we know, sorry, you're going to have to go. I don't know if she fully understood when I was trying to be like, you know, you kind of get it at tribal council because I didn't get to fully warn her. But at tribal council, she's like, based on what my daughter's saying, I'm pretty sure I'm going. And in all honesty, her reaction helped me way more than I thought. I was sitting there feeling like I was going to throw up because she's basically talking shit to Josh, excuse my language, talking junk to Josh and Jordy, like, basically my number one and number three. And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, oh my God, wait, I told them that she is a savage. And I told them I'm with them. I'm going to vote for her. This is amazing. Me and her already talked about it. When I go back to camp, they're going to have to apologize to me. And that's exactly what happened. I feel like it strengthened so many of our bonds. And then to see I did it and I was actually not mad about it, I feel like it strengthened them even further to then have the injury shortly after. And I'm sitting there. I was actually still in Australia for about a week. So merge happened while I was there. And when I tell you, I was crying, like I have never cried like that in my life. A lot of family members I lost when I was a little bit younger. I haven't had too many. I've been lucky now that I'm older. But at that time, I was like every night crying. And then I'm sure you've experienced where you kind of wake up and I'm like, where am I at? Oh my God, my ankle hurts. Am I alone? Like I've been surrounded by people for the last however many days. This is weird. And then to be ultrasound, we want to make sure you don't have a blood clot. And I'm like, oh my God. I actually told production, I was like, can I go make beds in the jury villa? Like just
let me do something.
Oh, no, you're going home. And then to come home,
come home, like, which is such a huge trip as well. Like you're stewing on that. It's normally like Samoa's not that far, and if it's in Australia, it's a short trip. That's like hours to stew on. That's not cool.
No, and then I think it took me like 2 days and I was in the wheelchair. So I was actually constantly having to wait for somebody to like pick me up and take me here. I couldn't walk. And then COVID, I had to have a mask on. I'm hot. I'm dizzy because I've never broken or fractured anything in my life. So this pain is new to me. I come home and of course my mom, oh my God, what happened? What happened? And I'm like, I literally didn't get voted out. Like I fractured my ankle and her first thing was, that's karma for voting me out. And because she's my mom, it didn't hurt my feelings. But I was like, so I'm going to let you go. And I'll call
It's funny for you to
tomorrow.
say that. Great joke.
Yeah, but I am
I'm
going
gonna
to
wheel
go
myself away slowly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was crying for like a week straight. I
Oh.
legit was crying for a week straight. And then I'm looking back to kind of circle back to your question with all that stuff happening. I look back, I watched the season, I talked to people, and I'm like, bro, I can't say I would have won, but based on what a lot of these people were saying and what actually happened, I genuinely feel as though not only would I have made it to merge, but I would have made it to close to the last few days. It would have all depended on how my relationship with Jesse and like Sam would have
Yeah.
developed. That's something I always say because I met both of them properly after the show. Me and Jesse were like best friends for like 2 weeks straight, like doing
Okay.
everything together. And then Sam, I didn't get a lot of time with her, but I also know the way she moved in the game isn't the kind of player that I would have connected with, but I connected with Mark like day one,
Yeah.
So I don't know what that would have looked like. And obviously talking to those who made it to the final five, they were like, girl, if you were there, I wouldn't have been surprised if you were there with us. And I'm like, that's lovely to hear, but
How old were you when you played? Because you must, if you're 27 now, like it's,
24.
dude, you're so young and you did so well. That's incredible. Yeah, man. Like it's, I hope that you can take the positives of how you played from it, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I learned a lot. That's something is, don't get me wrong, I'll stew in my emotions for a little bit till I'm ready to get over them. But without that, I would have never gone back a second time. I would have never learned anything. Like without that experience, I would have taken so much more for granted because I'm thinking I injured myself, woe is me. Then thankfully I got past it and saw it as more of a learning lesson. So when I went back for Heroes versus Villains, those moments where you're sitting on the beach watching the sun come up, those moments where you're looking at the stars, when you're hearing the crabs moving around, everybody's stirring and snoring in the rain and stuff, I enjoyed those moments. Like, did I want to be wet all day? No. But because of that, I'm like, holy crap, I'm here. I know what it's like to, in a snap, be taken away, not even get to go to camp. Like the surfer gentleman, I can't remember what season. Like,
Oh, yeah. He fell, the rope broke.
yeah, it broke on him, and he got to go back and say bye to everybody at the beach. I didn't get that. I showed up in the car. I told Jordy, I said, if there's tears in the back seat, they're mine. Sorry, feel free to wipe them away. I didn't get to say bye. I hugged these people, looked at them, good luck, dip out. And something that a lot of people don't know, which was the most devastating part. That morning, Josh was like, hey, after the challenge today, I want to have a one-on-one with you. Like, we're doing this. We are locking in. Like, I'm not joking. And I was like, bro, I couldn't have heard anything even better. Cause I was like, what about Jordan? He's like, no, that's my cousin, whatever. But me and you, like, let's do it. And then I didn't even get to have the conversation with him. And like, it's still goosebumps because I'm like, I missed the most iconic thing that can happen to you. And that is locking in with somebody until the end.
Yeah. Like I can feel the goosebumps because I've had that conversation, and it is it's like you're stripping away everything, and like you're like lowering the shield, lowering like 10 guards. It is a really special thing. Unfortunately my season didn't make the edit, which is okay, but that's all good. Hey, this is a random question. Just gonna throw it in there. Chicken processing plant. You talked about working for a chicken processing plant when you're at Blood versus Water. Like, did that ever tempt you to become? We had like a lot of vegetarian vegan talk on our season. So Charles was a vegan, Garrick was a vegan. Like, what is it like? Like I've never really seen a chicken processing plant, but like, yeah, does it like? Are you a vegan or vegetarian, or are you like full no?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I was there for about 2 years. I was in their accounting department upstairs.
Right.
Now, I did go on the floor, and apparently I was one of the only people to ever ask that. And I'm like, well, I'm paying the bills for these machines. I want to know what the machines are and what they do. The process, the process did not bother me. Not all plants are the same. And I know that some people, they have certain stances on it, but there were certain things I saw that it wasn't inhumane from what I have seen before. They took very much care from what I saw. So it didn't bother me. The smells, though, sometimes the smells can get you. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not going to have lunch today. Look at her. She's nosy.
Hey, what's up, Sandra? How you going?
How are you?
I'm good.
It was funky, yeah.
How you going?
Everything is good. It's starting to rain now, but there you go.
Oh, I was talking since we have her. What are these for?
Oh, a craft.
A survivor-related game?
Yeah.
Well, no, these are gonna be. I wanted to do one of those Halloween candles. You know, they use pool noodles or toilet paper or
paper
towels, and then you cut them at different lengths. And you do like hot glue lines, and then when you spray it, and then you put the tea lights and it's candles.
I was telling him how crazy you are about all the games and stuff, and I was like, I bet you. No, I did, but see, look, now she's gonna go on a whole rant. This is my interview. What you coming in here for?
Okay, bye.
Hey,
because but if you have a question for her before we're done, or once we're done, we can.
Yeah, this is your show. I mean, who am I to turn away Sandra? But this is Nina's time to shine. We will have a little chat later.
Bye.
Thanks. You're in her house, so I feel that's fair.
I know. I was like, let her come in, because she was standing there in like the bathroom, and I was like, come in.
Come on. Oh, that's funny. Let's move on from chicken anyway. Heroes v villain. I think that must have been a satisfying follow-up, right? Like you go back. Obviously George, it's a lot of George, but you do really well. And you kind of touched on it before in terms of all the relationships. But what was it like? Because obviously Heroes v Villains was in Samoa and the first one was in Australia. How did the climate and the environment affect you different? How did you find the differences there?
Oh my gosh, I would pick Australia 10 times over. I have only been sunburnt once or twice before in my life. I was sunburnt there within 2 days, but I was dry. I had fresh water. I could walk around with socks on because the sand was really hot. I wasn't getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. I will deal with the heat any and every day. Samoa, constantly wet. Day 2, had a smiley face of bug bites on my forehead. Of course, my forehead has a decent amount of space. So I'm like, really, y'all? Y'all couldn't here? Come on. And then I have never been bitten on the bottom of my feet, bug bites. And I'm like, how do y'all get through, the hard skin, whatever you call it? And hearing, and I know, I would always sleep with the buff over it. And then and I'm just like, I hate that noise till this day. That when I hear mosquitoes, I'm like, I just hate it. I love the experience, right? Because I feel Survivor has been all over the world, right? But more recently, it's on an island. So that gave me that true current Survivor feeling. But I'm also one of the only people that can say that they played in Australia, because there hasn't been many seasons actually there in the American version or the Australian version. So I will never change that. But if they ever say you want to come back, and I'm like, y'all filming in Australia or Samoa? No. But luckily enough, since my mom also played in Samoa and Fiji, Panama, she had a lot of experience with that tropical weather. And I was like, Mom, strategy, whatever, we could talk about that another time. What are the different kind of clothing pieces I need in this moment? Because I know that I'm going to be stressed out just like anyone else about being hungry, uncomfortable, and dirty. What is something I can do to kind of hinder that or decrease it? And one of the biggest things, she was honestly getting clothing items that have cuffs that aren't just like loose, because they will get in there. She was like, don't think they won't, because they will. And of course, day one, I didn't sleep with shoes on. Every night I had shoes on after that because my feet were getting eaten alive. So that's something. Mosquitoes, the camera group, they can't talk to us, right? So I'm doing an interview and I'm just like this so bad that I think Munya was like, let's take a second break, get some water. I turn around to get water and the camera guy is like, goodness. And I'm like, what? And he's like, your back looks like Braille. And I'm like, oh my God. And then as the day went on and they kind of inflamed, I touched my back and I was like, oh my God. I had to go in the ocean. And I think I asked Haley, I was like, I hate to bother you, but can you take some sand and just like scrub my back? Because I'm just like itching. And thank God, I feel like the salt water really helped. But after that, I was like, I know I have to, but if we can prevent from going over there again, where it's like swampy, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's no joke. That's full on. And I think we were wet, but I remember Benjamin Law wrote about getting his trench foot situation. It was so wet and gross. Like, yeah, it's pretty full on. Okay, so you want to go back to playing Australia. That's interesting. What else about heroes versus villains? I think you covered it. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I would love. I think you've kind of spoken about this a little bit before, but are you tempted to play US Survivor if the opportunity came about?
Yeah, I might be biased. I think Australian Survivor is better.
You're like, how do I say this nicely?
I played, right? So I have that experience, but I also know we have advantages. We have idols. We have all these things, but you never lose your vote. Like that's something I don't really like, because I feel like that's such a staple of the game. Like that is your vote, your decision. Now there's certain things where you might have an advantage that says, hey, you can do this or steal a vote or whatever. Like, I think that's a little bit different, but fully taking away votes where you have 3 people who can't even vote on a tribe of 6, like what? And then the amount of time is crazy. Would I want to do it 100%? I'm American. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even get to play on the American version. Like, I want to be out there. I want to see Jeff Probst and then be like, let's see if he's actually better than Jonathan. Not that he's, I'm sure he is. He has the
I'm Team Jonathan.
Sorry, I love Jonathan. That's my first Survivor experience. No, I'm sure Jeff is great. But yeah, I would love, love, love to play American Survivor. I almost feel like if I'm ever lucky enough to do it, it's so much better now, because I had that original Survivor experience over in Australia for that amount of days, that amount of stress, kind of the OG Survivor experience, some even OG challenges, which is amazing. I got to do things my mom did on Heroes versus Villains, that's crazy.
Which one? Which challenge?
If you remember on Heroes versus Villains, there was a challenge where they had those really, really big blocks, and they made like a word or image on the side, and Boston Rob was like picking one up by himself on his back. I think Poverty got hit in the head with one. Like, it was a whole thing. We got to do it, and I got to be the caller on it. So I was like, no, that's wrong. Flip it this way. Da, da, da.
Oh,
whatever.
Nice.
And there was another one, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but because I watched Heroes versus Villains before I went up, and I was like, oh, we get to do this challenge. Like, that's so crazy. Cool. But yeah, I think with that experience, being in that high pace side of it, those super intense advantages where there can be 10 in one episode, I would at least have some kind of understanding on how to navigate that. And then, of course, the Anonymous is also a lot shorter, a lot faster. Somebody goes home every day. So I also have that in my back pocket to kind of refer to.
Yeah, totally. That's exciting. I would love to see you play US Survivor as well. I know what you mean about having the OG experience as well. And thank goodness that you got to go back and then play so well and go so far. Because, was it 40? You must have been day 44 or something on Heroes v Villains?
44, I believe.
44. Yeah. That's huge, man. That's epic. Who do you want to? Okay.
Yeah.
Without any inside information.
Yep.
Who would you want to see back for season 50 good for US Survivor? It's a huge deal right now. You can't say your mum. Okay, let's rule out your mum, and let's rule. Who else should we rule out? Anyone else? Who would you like to see play?
I would like to see Johnny Fairplay for entertainment purposes. Ricard, because I met him and I really liked him. I would like to see Chanel because I really liked her as well in person. Game-wise, I really wanted to see Carson again to see how he would navigate it without having like two really close allies.
Yeah.
The whole time or like immediately, whatever. And there's somebody else that came to mind. And then maybe like other than Johnny Fairplay, like more of an OG player, somebody who hasn't been out there for a while. Somebody like Courtney, because I always loved her sassy. Like she's gonna hold back. And of course she's a winner, right? So she's gonna probably have a disadvantage, but just kind of seeing that like OG coming in, like I know what to do, not necessarily taking over, because I don't think she would necessarily do that, but you know, having that little slickness to her that other people wouldn't have. So those are the first people, at least that there's a bunch of them, but just immediately those come to mind.
It's interesting. I like Ricard as well. I think I did the little vote on the Rob Has Podcasting, and Ricard was on my list, definitely. So
Todd played it. Todd Herzog.
Yeah, he does it. Yeah. I think I voted for him too as well, actually. So that's interesting. When you say Chanel, is that like Shan from Shan and Ricard season?
No, not Shan. She wasn't my favorite from that season, but Chanel. Well, yeah, from the same season. Sorry. But not Shan, just Chanel. Okay.
Oh, I have to go back. Sorry, Chanel.
No. She was I can just show you a picture of her because nothing against Shan, but she wasn't like my favorite. But that's what Chanel looks like.
Oh, yeah. Okay, interesting.
Because I met her in person and she was very like, I don't know. There was something about her that really intrigued me, and she was really intentional with the way like she spoke, I think. And I was like, I would love to see what else she could do. Okay,
very cool. I missed a couple of the new era seasons, so maybe
too.
That's why. Yeah. So how involved? Well, this is a perfect segue. I wanted to ask you about your podcasting about Survivor. So you podcast Australian Survivor with Survivor Now, Randy. And I want to give a little shout out to Randy because he is a hardworking dude. He does a lot of prep, and I can see the effort that he puts into his podcast, which is great. But yeah, how have you found being on the other side of the mic and doing the podcasting?
So also shout out to Randy because him and I got along so well that when he got the opportunity to interview castaways from Titans versus Rebels, he was like, Nina, I would love to have you on, not only to be with me, but because you are a player and you can ask those more personal questions, which as I spoke to you, you're like, oh my God, great question.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know a little bit more about the psychological side of things and your personal experience. Like if I was like, I hated being wet, how did you find it? You know, like people are like, what are you talking about being wet? Like they don't understand the kind of behind the scenes mental stuff and day to day that they don't know about. Yep. So I honestly was so excited when he asked me because again, I'm not in Australia. I don't get to connect with everyone like I really want to. And of course I see you guys hanging out with some of my castmates and other seasons. And I'm like, I just want to meet these people, and being so lucky that a lot of you did know who I was. So it was kind of like that little bond of like, oh my God, they know me. I know them. This is so cool. I get to actually talk to them because without that podcast, other than reaching out on social media, there probably wouldn't have been a conversation. And I was just so lucky. I feel like emotionally, it really helped me. It made me super excited. And you know, there's 3 episodes a week. Even my own season, sometimes I'd be like, I'm gonna watch next week because that is too much. But with you guys and having that opportunity, I was like, no, I'm watching every day. I don't care. I want to be on top of this because you guys are taking the time to speak to us. But this might be one of the only chances I ever get to speak to you guys. And I miss the accent so much. The English is my favorite. Now it's the Aussie accent, and that's never gonna change.
Oh, you heard it here first. I love that. That's so cool. are you keen to keep podcasting for Australian Survivor, or are you like, okay, I've done Titans v Rebels, pretty good season, I'm going to move on?
No, honestly, great season. If I'm asked, now, do I think podcasting would be something that I took upon myself? Not right now. It's not something that I'm looking into, but to be a guest with somebody else or a co-host with somebody else, I really love that because I love the dynamic of bouncing off of each other. Like Randy and I kind of had signals like I would be like, because then he knows I want to say something or I want to ask something. That is my favorite part about it. And I don't think I would have my own podcast, but I'd love to be on anyone else's, whether it's one-on-one interviews or I could be a co-host with you for that one episode, whatever it is. I just love talking about it. I love talking to people, hearing their perspective and things that maybe I didn't deal with that you did. And I'm like, oh my God, how did you handle that? Very interesting.
No, I think the dynamic you got going with Randy is really good. Sometimes I'm like, let Nina speak about her. I'm like, Nina, like throw her the mic. No, it's hilarious. No, it's really, really good. I'm looking forward to the Survivor Now coverage. Anonymous, really quickly.
Yeah.
Dude, your hair on Anonymous is incredible. It is so good. Like, how do you do it? Did you have a whole plan to have your hair popping on the show?
A little bit of a plan. So, and honestly, I learned from Survivor. So there's something that I learned from Survivor myself and from my mom. I don't like to be preoccupied with things that really should not matter, right? And my hair being natural, it having been natural since I was 15, it took a lot of work to get to this point. And the last thing I want to do is put a knot in my hair. I have to cut it off. It's dry. It's this, is that. It's a lot of work. And I love my hair. I feel like it suits me and my personality so much. And it's healthier, right? Like I'm not putting chemicals and stuff in it. So something I learned about Survivor is a lot of those kind of like this, like protective styles give you multiple uses, but also keeps it detangled and healthy. So I was like, okay, this is amazing. When I go in, I'm going to do what I call finger coils, where you just kind of individually take each curl, right? And because they're individual, they don't tangle up together. So I can separate my hair and have two pigtails. I can do a half up. It's not the same as straight hair, but you can separate it in the same way where if you kind of have more of like an afro look, you kind of got to pull the hair apart because it kind of intertwines with each other. So I was like, oh my God, if I do finger coils, I can even wet my hair, because this is something I realized I have been doing them for so long that my hair is kind of trained, where I can wet my hair fully, put a little bit of gel, kind of mush it around to give it that hold, and the finger coils will stay. Yeah, so that's why a lot of times it's so funny that you say that, because me and Eric will watch the episode and he's like, look at your hair. And, the camera's behind me and I'm like, thank God.
I put in years of work for that.
Curls do their own thing. So I'm like, watch me having done my hair, put a split down the middle. And then the camera's like, girl, what is going on back there? But then it's all full and bouncy. And I'm like, yes.
It is so good. It's so good. The outfits are great. And that's, you kind of got to do that. But the hair is just, it's really breathtaking. So that's, I love it.
And I'm also not really one for a lot of makeup. One, because my skin is really sensitive, but I'm also kind of oily. When I get nervous, I get to sweating. You touch your face a bajillion times. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm not going to be a makeup girly, I'm going to be a hair girly. I'll put the sunglasses on so y'all can see how tired I am. But then I look good and I'm going to be happy.
Yeah, it is a good look. The sunnies and the big hair is really cool. And it is like it shows your personality in a way where you don't have to you don't have to wear, you do wear a hot pink t-shirt, I think, at one point, and I'm like, there's a lot going on, but I think it's really cool. Yeah. The gameplay, let's talk a little bit about prep for Anonymous. How did you you played Survivor twice. How did you prepare for the Anonymous? Because it's the first time.
Yeah, so it was actually a really, really quick turnaround, about 3 weeks. I was lucky enough, just like you said, where my boss was like, do your thing. Like, we'll figure it out. And if it doesn't work out, doesn't work out. But if it does, amazing. My main prep was actually watching, is it The Trust on Netflix? Because it had some they weren't fully clear with everything, right? Because it's the first season, so there's a lot of things to iron out, but it had similar qualities that sounded like what I was going to do. So I watched that. I had a few conversations with some of my previous players and Randy where I was like, just hypothetical, because I can't tell them anything. But I'm like, Randy, like we do these interviews together and stuff like that. Like, what did you ever think about my game? I feel like I never got critiques from you, and I was already talking to him, so I didn't have to like say what. And then I talked to David Zaharakis, and I'm like, David, you were my number one, and I feel like we never got a chance to kind of like critique each other. Like, you would say, and pretty much all of them said the same thing. Girl, you talk too much. Like, that's the thing. Just kind of calm down, be more concise, and maybe less descriptive. And so thus far, as far as the Anonymous has been airing, on some of the episodes, you'll see me a little bit more quiet, a little bit more just like, and I do this on purpose because I'm basically telling myself to be quiet. Yeah. I had people tell me like, you're so quiet. Like, are you shy? And then I'm like, yeah. And then I'm over here dying to talk. But as we saw in Heroes versus Villains, that one stupid thing I said changed my whole outcome of the game. And 100% my fault, 100% my responsibility to be mindful of the things I'm saying. And that's one thing I learned, like, please, girl, be careful what you say. And if you got to tell yourself to be quiet, do it. And that's exactly what I did. And that's something that I learned from a lot of people, including in the close family, mom, dad, that they knew that I was leaving, that they could know. They were like, girl, be quiet.
Yeah, interesting. Because I think the risk of being there's always a bit of a tension between playing a really good strategic game and then also like being a fun and entertaining character that is yourself, that's going to make good TV, right? And so I think when you slide into like more quiet strategic, you run the risk of not really popping off the screen. But from what I've seen so far, if you do it really well and then you give nice confessionals and you're entertaining, like doing other fun things, that is the best TV, when it's like, I'm quiet, or I'm being selective with my words, I'm being careful and considered, but I'm being 100% strategic. And when they can show that, man, it's so good. It's better. I prefer to watch that as a TV, like a TV product where it's like someone's not dialed into 15 out of 10 or whatever it is because they're trying to show their personality and they're strategic and blah, 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 blah. I would rather watch like a really sophisticated player like you are playing at the moment on Anonymous. So that's really cool that it's paying off. I like that.
And talking about we call it MIVS, Master Interview, where Survivor Confessionals, I learned I never like stopped playing Survivor. Like when I was out there, it did not stop. There are times where I'd be sitting in confessional and I'm like, I'm not going to say that. I've been keeping that to myself all day. Like I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Also, I didn't want to be like mean. I'm like, I can't, Mark. I'm like, Mark doesn't, I don't want to cuss too much. Excuse me, because I do cuss a lot. I'm like, Mark doesn't understand. He's an idiot, whatever. Yeah. And then I'm like, but I'm not going to say that in the confessional because that's rude. And although I think that, I'm not that person. Like, you'll never I'm not that person where my mom will be like, he's an idiot. Not my thing. But I said, you know what? This time around, I'm going to make sure that I actually convey everything that I can in that moment. Because I feel like there were so many times I did explain stuff and it didn't get shown, or there were really big moments where I didn't fully explain because I was so immersed in the game that there was nothing to show. So I said, screw it. Hopefully nothing comes off too mean. I do not make any of these games personal. And I know that's hard for certain people. And I do give it to my background. Like my mom was like, well, it does not matter. Everybody's there to do their thing. And if they make it personal and keep it that way, that's on them, not you. Yeah. So I said, make sure anytime you're doing an interview, you fully explain what you mean. And if you got to throw in a little joke in there, if you can, because I'm not really a good joke, do it. If it comes out naturally, then great. And if it doesn't, then you'll just be a little corny on TV and maybe you'll be a meme. I don't know.
Yeah. That's all of our goal, is to be a meme.
I just love my faces. I love, oh my God. I love my facial expressions because it's one of my, like, I express myself with my hair, my nails, my facial expressions, and I love it. But then USA Network will post videos and I'm the thumbnail.
You are.
And I'm like, oh my God, like y'all couldn't have used a cuter one. And then in the clip showed me like all angry. But then I think it's funny because it's me. Like it's what I do.
Yeah. Like there's no hiding from the camera. That's the thing, you know.
Like Big Brother, they're everywhere. They're like little surveillance things.
I know. Yeah. So they had surveillance as well, right? Oh, that's good. I like that actually. Like that would be cool if you could have more cameras. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm dying to see how the Anonymous plays out because I think it's really fun. I love that you chose popcorn. That was my that was one of the ones that I was keen. Popcorn and fish were the two I really liked popcorn and fish. So yeah, that's really cool. Nina, mate, thank you so much for your time. This has been so much fun. I'm really excited to see what happens next with your TV journey. Who knows where it could go. And it's been really fun to, fingers crossed. It's been fun to chat and learn a little bit more about Nina and not just the daughter of Sandra, but now in her own right, you know, an epic legend of Australian Survivor and now the Anonymous. So yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, where can people find you online and where can people watch the Anonymous actually? Legally legally, where can people watch it?
Yeah, so on Instagram, Nina_Untwine. That's where I'm mainly at. My Threads is also connected to it, and Twitter as well is just Nina Twine. I just restarted Twitter, so there's not many followers, so don't think it's not me. I just I wasn't gonna, but The Anonymous can be watched on USA Network here in the States, Hulu Live, YouTube TV, Peacock the following week. Abroad, I think the best way is probably YouTube. But if you have like a VPN, of course, you're going to have a lot more access to different things. And I don't know, sometimes there's like Facebook groups that'll post links of things that they find. I haven't seen any, but you might be able to.
Let's not get you in any trouble, Nina. I think that's enough. Mark here. This is another episode of Beyond the Edit. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Mark Warnock. Find me on Instagram at Mark T. Warnock and then go from there. Nina, thank you so much again for dialing in all the way across the other side of the world, but feel the love from Australia. We love you down here and welcome back to Australia whenever you want to come visit. You got a space here in Brizzy, and I'm sure every other Australian Survivor player will open their homes to you too.
Thank you so much for having me.